Welcome to the CAD Builder video tutorial series. In this video, we will take a look at how to create several dado joint connections, review the settings available for each of these, and then how to apply the joints in your cabinets. Let's open a new drawing and select the construction module from the main menu, and then select the last section titled Construction Connection. Here is where you will see all the types of joints. The first portion being all of the templates that can be used at any time, but are read-only and cannot be changed. In the second part, you'll see the trial versions of each type. For this example, we will create a new dado joint from scratch that we will name Through Dado and select Create. Select the new Through Dado joint and let's walk through the parameters. You should see the name at the top center and then select the dado type. What we mean by dado within CAD Builder is that anytime you have a groove cut into a part, then you will have the adjoining part filling in that groove, and this would be considered a dado joint. It can also be either cut along with the grain or across the grain. Either orientation will work for this joint. Here it has three basic types. Number one is the through dado. It will extend edge to edge of either the dadoed or the tenon part. Number two is the stopped or half-blind dado, where it extends to one edge of either the dadoed or the tenon part, but stops before reaching the other edge. And number three, we have the full-blind dado. With this one, the dado is stopped short before reaching either the edge of the dadoed or the tenon part. So for this one, you would not be able to see the joint from the front or from the back. We will keep this at through dado for now. Next, you will set the dado depth, which refers to the depth of the dado cut or groove. You can set this to a fixed depth, for example. This can be set to 1/4 inch, which is typically what we see. Or it can be a percentage of the material thickness, where you can specify that percent value. Mating board cut is what makes it into a rabbited dado if you decide you would like to use that. A majority of dados will be straight dados. However, you do have the option to make a rabbet cut into the tenon and then make the groove effectively half the thickness. This allows you to lock the piece in so that it only works in one orientation, not the other. Typically, this is used for frameless construction. After this, we have the tenon thickness. So if you do select the rabbet cut, here is where you'll determine how thick the cut will be. I'll change this back to the straight dado, and next we'll look at the minimum thickness. This is particularly important for CNC users. For example, if I set the minimum thickness value to 1/2 inch, then CAD Builder will make the groove at least a 1/2 inch, even if the connected piece is thinner. Then that extra thickness is going to go either to the tenon face or to the back. If you do set it to a rabbet cut, then you can decide if it's going to be cut from the face side or from the back side. If there is a blind or a half-blind dado, then it means the tenon is going to get a notch cut into it so that it continues to the rest of the connections, but not all the way through. When we select the front notch length, we can determine the distance from the front edge of the part to the tenon. Then select the back notch length to set the distance from the back edge of the part to the tenon. Next, you will see the depth, length, and thickness adjustments. These will make the grooves ever so slightly bigger than the tenon in either thickness, length, or depth. If you are not using CNC, you can simply leave these values at 0. However, if you are using a CNC, this will make your connection easier to assemble. The reason is that if you make the groove exactly the same thickness as the tenon, it will be too tight to fit and will make it difficult to assemble. We recommend a thickness of 1/64 inch or less. Next is the parts gap, which allows you to set a gap between the two parts. For now, we will leave this at the default of 0. CNC dado notch and tenon tells CAD Builder whether these cuts will be made by the CNC or not. If not, CAD Builder will simply cut the overall part size, allowing you to cut the groove and tenon by hand. So if you are using a CNC, be sure to set both of these to the CNC option. Below that are the inside corner correction options for the tenon and the notch. Because of the nature of CNC cutting, when it makes that inside pocket, you can see it leaves these corner radii here. So when you are trying to cut a square, you can't get this corner as tight as you might like. A few options CAD Builder provides are 1. To leave the cutout as is, or 2. You can use T-bone correction, where the drill bit or the cutting tool goes a little bit past the boundaries to make sure that there's no wasted material and nothing standing in the way of the tenon piece. CAD Builder will create this in such a way so that these T-bones are not seen from the outside of the connection. The third option is to use corner cleaning, where a smaller bit is used to make the cuts at the corners so that it creates a much smaller radii and possibly not even have an impact on that assembly. The last option here is for tenon breaks. Typically, you will have just one solid tenon. However, if you do need to create a dado with multiple tenons, you can do that. Breaks quantity allows you to determine the number of breaks in the tenon, and then you can set the spacing between breaks on the tenon with the next option below. Now let's take a look at how we would apply the different types of dado connections in your cabinet construction. A through dado can be used when it does not matter if the person can see the cut on the other side. So for example, if we're using face frame cabinetry and we are looking at the bottom dadoed into a side, you can use a through dado since the joint will be covered by the face frame on the front. To demonstrate, I'll go back to the construction methods, select the frame construction method that I created, and then select joints. Once open, I'll select bottom joints, then bottom unfinished side, and select the extend side to frame bottom option in the right panel. Below that is the parts connection text box. I'll select the three dots to the right to open up the connection selection window, and here I'll choose Dado Connection in the categories list, and my through dado joint in the middle section. If I need to make any additional edits to the settings, I can do so on the right-hand side. Once these are set, I'll click on the Select button at the bottom to save it, and you can see now that the new through dado joint is set for the bottom to the unfinished side connection. We can see what that looks like here in the wireframe editor. Since the style is covering the connection, you won't see that joint from the front of the cabinet even when the door is open. I have hidden the door temporarily here to show you what that looks like. And at the back of the cabinet, you won't be able to see the joint either since it's going to be up against a wall. It also would not need to be edge banded since you will not be able to see that front edge. Now if you will be using frameless cabinets for that same connection example, you will be able to see the bottom to the side joint whenever you open the door. So in that case, it's better to select the half-blind dado and stop it short of the front. Here is what that will look like in the wireframe editor. The dado connection is hidden from the front view since the dado connection stops before the front of the cabinet. A blind dado is preferred when you don't want to see the dado from either the front or the back. It also can be used in order to really lock in the connection. For example, when we create a drawer box and we don't want the joint to be seen from the bottom, and you want to keep it from sliding down during assembly, a blind dado is a good option. So first, I'll create a blind dado connection in the connection constructions. Once selected, we will change the dado type to blind dado. The next few items we will leave as is, but the front notch and the back notch length we will set to 3/4 inches. This is similar to a half-blind dado, but here the notching is done on both sides. We will leave the other options to how they are currently set and open the drawer box construction methods and select one. Let's select the joint section and set the side to front to the new blind dado by opening the connection selection window, picking the blind dado, and hitting select to apply. We will apply the same blind dado joint to the side to back option as well. I'll bring in a cabinet, open up design options, and set the construction method to frameless, and the drawer box construction to the one we just used and hit apply. Now we'll open up the wireframe editor and take a look at this. To do that, we will go ahead and hide all the other parts, everything except for the drawer box. Then I'll hide the right side so you can see the notches at the top and bottom. And if you look at it from the top, after I bring back in the side piece, you won't see anything. And if we look at the bottom view, you won't see that connection here either. As you can see, the blind dado is very useful for frameless construction because you can't see it from either side. Now that we have a better understanding of the through dado, half-blind dado, and the blind dado, you will be able to easily apply these to your cabinets. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. To view additional video tutorials, please visit www.cabbuildersoftware.com/training.